Uh, the most overwhelming feeling was, I would say, relief. I do have moments where I feel like, did I fail? What happened? Don't let go of both incomes. Don't be comfortable being the one chief with many, many Indians. No, what a man sows, he will reap.
Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Rudo Kayombo. In part 1, we covered her 25-year humanitarian career and the birth of Fahari. Now we explore the messy, honest reality of entrepreneurship and coming home. Subscribe, like, and comment. Welcome back, everyone. I am talking to Rudo Kayombo, who was an international development leader and is now an entrepreneur under the brand Fahari Kubunya Splendor. I got that right, Rudo?
Yeah, you did. You got that right.
So that's you mentioned this about how they Swahili and they Shona in there. Can you tell me why? Why the two? Why the two languages?
You know, actually, Fahari was birthed in Kenya, and so it made sense to call it Fahari. But it's also something that just the name drew my attention, because the root of the institution is a biblical verse, which ends with "to demonstrate the splendor of God." So splendor in Swahili is Fahari. But when I came to Zimbabwe and I wanted to register the entity, they have to do a name search. So Fahari alone was not approved. Then when I combined the three, it was approved. Yes. So we had to put the three together. It's exactly the same word in 3 different languages. Yes.
Okay, that adaptability as an entrepreneur.
Yes. But also, you know, if you're going to be selling any products, you want people to relate to what it is. If you say Fahari in Zimbabwe, people will think, what is that? But if they see Kubunya, they identify with the brightness, the vibrance. And the logo of Fahari is actually a tree, an oak tree with the light shining upon it. So the vibrance is already depicted in that tree.
Yeah. Okay. I like the logo. I really do. Yeah.
And you know, one of the other things we need to be aware is that a tree has many functions. It's good for the environment, the leaves, their life, but it also shelters. So anything that comes and has a natural feel to it can speak without using words. That tree should be able to speak of the substance of this institution, that it's really meant to be life-giving, shelter providing.
Yeah. Why entrepreneurship and why now? What was the actual trigger? Because I know that you were contemplating, you wanted to go right back into work. And then there seemed to be a trigger. What was it?
You know, when you come back home, my big vision is to set up this oasis where you can offer services. But that takes time, because you have to set up systems. You have to select the people who will offer coaching and mentorship and counseling and therapy and their referral network. Whereas I could actually run with a small boutique shop that sells some of what gives me joy. I get joy from fabrics and African outfits and African decor. So there's nothing more beautiful than doing what you love and having the possibility of generating an income from it. So that's why we are running with this part of the company while the other bigger vision is information.
Tell me about the first week after you stopped being area vice president. That's such a big title. What did that feel like? Identity-wise, not just practically, but identity-wise.
I would say that because I was so busy, I finished on the 31st of October. I was actually leaving on the 12th, on the 11th. So there wasn't much time to actually go through the process of processing who am I now that I'm not area vice president. That stage, I think, would have happened in around maybe January. Because I got in, it felt very much like I was on leave, which I was. And then the Christmas season came in. It's middle of January that you begin to say, I have been always moving from one job to another. What now?
Yes.
And the most overwhelming feeling was, I would say, relief. You can go on for so many years, chasing emails, deadlines, responding, worrying about how you're coming across to your subordinates, to the boards, the different boards you are serving, and also to your boss. I kid you not, I felt so relieved that I didn't have to question myself or second guess myself. I could just be. And the simplicity of that season, I'm still living through it. I'm not yet at a stage where I am genuinely saying, I need another job. I don't. I really am feeling I was at it for so long. Thank God that I've had these 4 months. Maybe it can even stretch into another, I would say, 8 months before I get onto that busy schedule where everything is scheduled and maybe even your quiet time, your prayer time is rushed. That's not to say I don't find myself a bit out of kilter with my schedule, but I own my schedule. It's such a huge relief. And by the way, one of the reasons that made me feel it was okay to transition back to Zim is I have a mom who turned 83 last year. And all 3 of us as siblings have been out of Zimbabwe for the longest of time. I was the last one to leave in 2004. And although I would come back and she would visit, I was the first one to come back. It's been so amazing being able to do Christmas with my mom, Easter with my mom, being able to help her organize her life now that she doesn't have the energy to do that herself. And she came up here all throughout Easter and stayed long enough for me to launch this shop. So she's cheering me on. Of course, she's worried that I'm not as busy or as highly paid or paid at all as I was, but she doesn't realize that I'm in a season of literal rest, that peaceful transition. Of course, I've had to adjust my lifestyle, but thank God I had a few properties. So I do have some rental income to tide me over. I have a few pension benefits that are still tiding me over. And now we have this shop, which largely I'm still investing into, but it will start bringing in some fruits. So it's also good that I don't have many financial demands on me and I can manage on my income. So I would say I've not come to a point where I'm feeling, but where's that big title? I do have moments where I feel like, did I fail? What happened? How did I come down with a third from area vice president, not even to a country manager or to a consultant, but to actually I'm not working and I have to start. Those moments do come. And when that happens, I had one night, it was a Sunday night, and I went back to God and I said, what did I do wrong, Lord? What happened? And thanks be to God, the very next day, a cousin of mine sent me a message. He said, I've got a message for you, Rudo. God is saying, seek me first in this season, and all the other things that you're concerned about, I'll give them to you. So over and above just being in a space of rest, I kid you not, Batje, I do find opportunity to serve other people. I am serving my mom. I'm serving family members. I go and visit those who are unwell. I go to funerals. For many years, I used my work and my busy schedule and my senior role as an excuse for not being there for family, for friends. And it was accepted, or at least I hid behind it. Yes. And I thought it was okay. But for the first time, I may not have a big car, but I'm available. I reach out to my nephews, to my cousins, and I say, someone is passed on. Can you guys organize for transport? I will go. And they will run around and make the transport available. And I kid you not, when I show up, family is glad I'm back in Zimbabwe. So while I don't have the title or the big car or the big office, I find myself serving in a manner that doesn't necessarily bring the limelight on me, but I believe it glorifies God. So it's so fulfilling. And I don't think many of us realize that sometimes all God wants from us is our time and our availability.
That's so good. That's so good, Sis Rudo. You know, the importance of community and, I like how that is. It's so fulfilling to be able to serve those that are nearest and dearest to you after many years of serving whole nations, and now you get this opportunity to serve your community that has rallied around you for years while you were building your career. And I also like that questioning and answer. Right? How you're like, oh, did I fail? But your answer came immediately. That this is actually not about you. This is not about you. God saying, this is not about you. This is about me.
Yes. And sometimes God wants us in that simplicity, not of the title, not of your qualification, but of who you are, who God has made you, and how He has already endowed you with so many things. And sometimes in a family, if you're in your late 50s, people do listen to you, but they don't listen because you are old. They listen because they know you want the best for them. And you're willing to support them to get to that which is the best for them. Sometimes we chase after career, titles, or the corner office, when in fact, what we need is to be able to give of who we are to others. And this journey has also been supported through a leadership program that I went through in 2024. That was actually built on the words of Romans 12, verse 1 and 2, which says, I beseech you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer yourselves as living sacrifices. So I'm in that stage where I can offer who I am based on the fact that who I've become is a product of all of what God has invested in me. Now, for once, I can give it back to God so that He can deploy me as best as He sees fit.
I love it, Rudo. Now, I just want to pivot a little bit to talk about how you were building the Fahari brand in Kenya when you were still in the corporate NGO world. And a lot of our audience is doing that exact thing right now. Side project at night, day job by day. How did you carry both?
Well, actually, the Fahari Canteen was it was envisioned by me because I needed to support one of my mentees, a young Kenyan lady, to come up with a social enterprise or an enterprise that she could manage. And there was also another Zimbabwean lady who was a master's student at the university where we set up the Fahari Canteen. So I envisioned it. I explained my vision. I financed the startup costs of setting up this canteen, and they ran with it. I only set my foot in that canteen months into its being in existence. I let them run with it. They would come to me and say, this is where we're at. This is what we need you to input into it. And then towards the end, I said, you know what? I'm disinvesting, guys. I'm not going to be here. And believe you me, one of the most amazing things is the lady who remained in Kenya running this entity sent into my M-Pesa account 50,000 Kenyan shillings to say, I know you spend a lot of money buying the equipment. We are afloat. So I was the vision behind it, and I financed it, but I let them run with it because I didn't have the bandwidth. I didn't. And they needed to be there day in and day out. So I didn't have to handhold it and do the numbers. They were doing it and they would account to me and would have regular meetings. But it's being run as a private enterprise. It's even changed location, but it still employs one of the young ladies who I was actually trying to walk alongside, and she was struggling to find employment.
Oh, wow. That must be so fulfilling to see that successful mentorship.
Yes. It's just amazing. It is actually mind-blowing.
Rudo, you also made a second transition inside the first one that you made. We spoke about your transition from in the work sense, from a corporate NGO world to like an entrepreneurial world. But you alluded to it, you're moving back home. You moved from Nairobi back to Harare. What has that transition been like, moving back home?
It's been interesting. I've been fortunate that, as I said before, I own a few properties, two here in Zimbabwe and one in South Africa. So in a way, when you've got what you might call that safety net, the income from those properties made it much, much easier. And by the way, when I came into Zimbabwe in November, I actually moved into my cottage, which is on my property. Because that was always the arrangement with the lady who lives in that cottage. It's a 2-bedroom cottage. We had agreed that when I would be in the country, I would share that cottage with her because she only needed 1 bedroom. It was furnished. It made it easier. But before I even came, I remember reaching out to my coach, the lady I referenced, Mrs. Eunice Njofana, my first boss at Musasa. And I said to her, Mama, what do you think I should do when I come back? Do I move into my cottage and get the tenant who's there out? And she said, no, you don't do that because you still have a tenant in the main house. There is no one who wants to wake up every day and look at their landlord in the face. So I got that clear. But she said, if you're going to find a smaller place, because you're not working, you are living on your savings and on this income from housing, do not find an expensive place. You do not need a big place. Yes, your mom is Mashingo. You can always visit her at her home. But in Harare, move into a place that does not cost you more than 500. Well, it was not easy to find something that costs 500. The one I'm in, it's a 2-bedroom cottage, very adequate for my needs, and it costs 600. So I did seek counsel even on that. I have to reduce my costs. I don't even have a car. The car I own, I've allowed my mom to continue using it because she's 83, I'm 57. She needs it more. I can use InDrive. So I don't know how, but 1.5 years into my being in Kenya, I was in Kenya for a total of 3 years. I moved from one job where I was driving a Prado to a job where I was getting my salary and no car. And I made a decision then to use Uber. That has helped me. I no longer need to drive a car to feel like I'm important or I'm executive. I have come into a place where I can arrive in drive or ask for a lift as long as I get to where I need to get to. It's not a problem. So it's been a journey. Coming back home when you are not so caught up with being in a big house, driving a big car is much easier. But it's also because of where I am in terms of my age. My son is an adult, he's working. I don't have immediate financial pressures. So the adjustment has been much, much better for me because I came with, I think, a willingness to rest and go slow and not expect things to work out overnight.
Someone is listening right now, thinking about moving back home, and they're saying, okay, Rudo, what's the practical advice? What's the gap between the idea, what we see on Instagram, I'm going back home, and the reality?
Well, I was talking to a couple on Monday, and I say to them, the wife has a job, the husband has come here, he's got a consultancy contract. I said, please maintain that job in Kenya. You, who is a consultant, try and attend to the housing needs, the family's needs while on the ground, and be going back to Kenya from time to time to help your wife with the kids. My advice is don't all two of you, supposing you are a two family, a husband and a wife, don't let go of both incomes and transition back home. It will be too much of a shock. In Zimbabwe, everything is dollarized and it's expensive. You need a house, you need power, you need backup, you need a borehole, or you need to be able to have a tank and water that comes in because some of the basic services are not available. I'm still in the process of getting my medical aid insurance up and going. So make sure that there are some things that remain constant as you are making a transition. Don't cut off one life and think you can just jump into another life. It will be too hard on you as a family and it will be too stressful.
Okay, that's some reality, isn't it? Rather than the sentiment, I think making decisions with practicality rather than making sentimental decisions is important when making such transitions.
Yes, and I think people think if we are a couple, the two of us can just decide. I don't think that's very wise. Have a network of support, whether from within your family or within your friendship circle. That has been a huge, huge plus for me. I have a group of friends who I have maintained regular contact with. In fact, I have a group of ladies I pray with every first 3 days of the month. Some of them have remained in Zimbabwe. You need people like that who will take you around. They will say to you, there's now a shop at the racecourse. There's now a shop at Arundel. There's now a shop at Newlands. In fact, this thing that you want, one of my friends literally will go and buy containers, food containers that you put in the fridge. She'll buy them downtown at $1 a container. Whereas if you were left at your own, you'll be buying them for $5 in Pick and Pay, in Borodale or Groombridge. So you need a network that will say, I will go for you. I know where it's affordable. Yes, you need that network. Otherwise, you land flat on your face and you will just as quickly pack your bags to leave as when you landed. I know there are couples to whom that has happened.
I know that, they say your network is your net worth, and it's really not just a sound bite.
No, it's not.
It
really
reality.
is
Shifting a little bit, still under the Fahari brand. So I'm a member of the Fahari Women's Fund. I'm going to declare it. Disclaimer. So I already have a seat at this amazing table that you have created. For our listeners, can you tell them what the fund is, why it exists, and who it's for? I know it's still a little bit, tightly knit, but I really just wanted to share this because I see the vision, and I think the vision is beautiful.
Well, the Fahari Women's Fund was formed when I was in Kenya. And actually, at that stage, I had no idea I would be leaving Kenya so soon. The idea was to bring together those of us who were in Kenya, Zimbabweans, and say, let's save together and let's raise money and let's do projects that will multiply. Because things that you do together will always have both the credibility as well as the critical scale that you get to when you work as a group that you might not be able to get to as an individual. Obviously, as an individual, you are saving, you are investing. But when you work in a group, you might be able to unlock certain services, certain opportunities that are purely for groups. So that was the idea. And it would be also to support each other because there's a possibility to borrow from the fund at an interest and do your own personal projects. But being able to have a fund you can borrow from apart from the banking sector or any other borrowing opportunities is always a plus. My hope is that that fund will buy land. We will build something. In fact, today I just found out that there is a plot that is available in Norton for a school. And I'll take it back to the Fahari group to say, people, either we buy land and we come up with some student accommodation, or we buy land and we build a school. We can start small and build over years, but something that we'll do together so that we will have multiple streams of income at any given time. Passive income is important, but it's much easier to get there as a group than as an individual.
I like that. And, when we talk about finances, what has been your experience with, how we were never really taught? I don't know if it's a cultural thing or if it's a woman thing. We were never really taught finances. That relationship with money is something that, I struggle with and have had to learn and unlearn a few things. What have you found? And is that something that really might have prompted you or you say to yourself, maybe let me start this fund for that exact reason, to help that women with that relationship with money?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I learned, and I would say it's about in 2000, I went to a course which was called The Dynamics of Success. And it was a goal-setting program, and it was run by Success Motivation International. And I remember the lady who invited me to that cohort, her name is Lydia Jokonya. I still relate to her. I think goal-setting, including financial goals, is something that we need to teach people at an earlier age. And maybe it's something that we need to offer as Fahari, not only as a fund, but as Fahari, the company. We need financial literacy to be taught sooner in life. I got most of my financial literacy from the church, really. And the one thing that I was taught early and I taught my son is to tithe. I've learned that if you give back at a tenth, minimum of a tenth to God, He will help you manage the remaining 9%. I've also learned how to invest and in real estate and sell. I've owned properties. My late husband and I, and now on my own, I've owned properties. I've bought and sold and bought and sold. And I've gotten on that ladder earlier. And I think we need to introduce it into our curricula, but also into any programs that we offer as extracurricular just to help people along the ladder. And actually, when the fund was set up, we wanted to bring together women who were very comfortable women who were maybe homemakers but had access to finances through their spouses, or young women who were still studying and just had, again, support from a spouse. So we wanted to make sure that everyone could save, everyone could work together and bring together resources so that they can multiply. So it's important for us to create those ladders so that everyone is able to get on the ladder of progression. And maybe some of it came out of my stint with BRAC, which is a women's economic empowerment organization. It is an NGO and a microfinance. And actually, when I was Africa director for BRAC, we had a significant amount of funding from the MasterCard Foundation, which was supposed to help 1.7 million adolescent girls and young women get comfortable with their sexual reproductive health rights, but also then move into livelihoods and economic empowerment. So I understood that there is a pathway that people can be on to move from subsistence to actual sustainable livelihoods. And I hope that we will find a way of making sure we're moving more and more women along that path.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by HUMHR, the boutique career and leadership consultancy helping professionals get clear, get confident, and get hired. From CV writing and Clifton Strengths coaching to interview prep and leadership development, HUMHR is here to help you take the next step in your career. Visit humhr.org, HUMHR.org to learn more. I want to talk about AI. We've been going for an hour now. So I really want to get in some of those questions that came to mind when you were talking. And one of the things was you mentioned AI. So I'm going to bring back something you once said in a WhatsApp group that we are all in, that we are both in. And, you are looking for someone to assist you with your career marketing documents. And someone was like, oh, you can just use ChatGPT. And your response was hilarious. You were like, oh, I'm too much of a dinosaur for ChatGPT. And that you wanted and you wanted a real person. And you were like, and if that person can use AI, they can do that if they want. But, So I heard you mention AI earlier, and it's everywhere. It's absolutely, it's everywhere. And I think if you are not using AI right now, I don't know. It's kind of like when Facebook came and when Instagram came and, when social media came, and some of us, I will admit, some of us were like, no, this is not for me, and eventually we ended up on there. Right now that I am on all those social media platforms. But I wanted to find out from you, you're building a brand now in a market really that AI is reshaping daily. So what's your honest position today?
I need to get on the bandwagon. That's it. But even while I'm still getting comfortable, or at least will jump in and get someone to take me through it and the basics, I still have young people who are doing all the visuals and helping me post all the things that we're doing at Fahari. And actually just today, somebody is on their way from South Africa with a new mobile device that will put all the materials for the shop, because it's absolutely necessary to communicate. And even the location of the Fahari shop is somewhere in the back of beyond, that if we're not present in the minds, in the eyes of our would-be clients, it's not gonna happen. No one is gonna get off and just get on a InDrive or a Combi and go to Highlands. What for? We will need to be fielding our information, our identity, what we're offering in social media. And while I have assistance in doing that, I will need to be visible, speaking to our customers and saying, this is what we're bringing to you. And to be honest, Batje, that's why I'm also so grateful for this interview, because who knows how this is going to go out and communicate who I am, who I've been, and where I'm going, and what I am willing to do to support other people along their journey. to rooting themselves in a clear identity, a path forward with clear visions and goals.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, the thread, that humility that you spoke about earlier on, that you were willing to say, I don't know. And now you're actually willing to say, I was wrong. I need to get onto that bandwagon. And learning and relearning at any age.
Yes, absolutely.
So I know humanitarian organizations right now, I'm going to take you back to your experience. They're pouring money into AI as well. And they were like, I saw some statistics that were crazy about jobs that have been lost. Yes, due to funding, but it seems there's also some AI in there that, is eating into the job losses. And from inside that 25-year humanitarian career, what's your take on what that does to the sector and the people who built their lives on it? I think it was 233,000 jobs that were lost. I can't remember the exact figure in last year, so it's been a year. What's your take on what's happened to the sector?
I think, unfortunately, all of what we did in the humanitarian sector, apart from, I would say, life-saving humanitarian emergency response services, might have been us applying a Band-Aid to a deeper problem. And that deeper problem is that governments are not working, communities are not engaging and doing what they need to create solutions for themselves. So we stepped into that missing middle. Should we continue to step in and do what either bottom-up community development organizations or even faith-based organizations should be doing, and what governments need to do to meet those communities where they are at? Should we continue? Maybe not. So we built an industry that had a lot of humanitarian workers. Apart from life-saving humanitarian response in cases of disaster, natural and man-made, I think our development work, we need to professionalize it, and we need to make sure that it's actually owned by what we call community-based organizations, which means that if you were in a job in an international organization like I was, and many of my colleagues still are in, you need to begin to know how you can repackage and support the emergence and growth of community-based action and interventions so that we can empty all the investment that was going into oiling that international development sector to actually supporting community-based initiatives. So we need to get ready to lose jobs, to lose more jobs, and we need to get ready to shrink into the spaces where we're serving community-based efforts. Maybe you come up with a social enterprise, or you support your school to make sure that they have income generation that will sustain the school, or you get on the alumni group for your school and you organize yourself to support where government can no longer be able to invest. But we need a different order, and we need to invest our efforts at a different level. So we need to repurpose what we have learned over the years to enable community-based initiatives, or we can work for government as advisors, as I'm ready to be an advisor to the social services sector in Zimbabwe. I'm ready to sit on the board of a community-based organization so that real impact is happening. And not just to keep a job for myself, but for the younger development practitioner who may still need a job, then you need to repurpose your skills into another part of the continuum, which is more sustainable, either at the community level or to strengthen the government, because they are indeed the duty bearers.
I think there's a new career. I think what's happening has really shifted that thought process, or that the mindset. We have to change our mindsets from like working in an organization. I am just an employee. Even when you are in that organization, you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset.
Absolutely.
In terms of, what are my skills? What are the skills that I am selling to this organization? And what are the skills that I can sell to any other organization if this job ends? What can I do with the skills that I'm learning here, or the skills that I'm actually using in this organization? And it's really entrepreneurial. It's just seeing yourself as, I think it's called being an intrapreneur when you are working versus being an entrepreneur outside. But it's honing in those entrepreneurial skills. What project can I work on in this organization right now, right? And that's being an entrepreneur. That what problem can I solve in my current role? Those are the skills, those are entrepreneurial skills that you are honing in within an organization. So I think that mindset shift in the era that we are in 2026, is so important. And I like that you're saying ready to consult. And those are the skills. Right? I've learned those skills, so I'm ready to share those skills, to be a consultant, to sell my skills to the government. I'm ready to sell my skills to any corporate organization from my 25 years of experience as a humanitarian, because obviously that is such a wealth of knowledge.
Yes, we have to. And I think also we need to strengthen the faith-based organizations' response, because I've watched countries like Malawi go through annual flooding. And the people at the front line are always going to be faith-based organizations, churches and mosques and traditional authorities. What is their understanding of how you figure out how to evacuate people? How do you work with the local government or the local church diocese and make sure that all people are accounted for, that schools become shelter, that churches become shelter? What are we doing to ensure that the community actor has the capabilities they need? That for me is a passion. How are we strengthening local governance at the community level so that decisions are made that are effective and produce impact at the community level? I sit on the board of another, I would say, Zimbabwean UK charity, and they work very significantly in Zimbabwe. And we are committed to working through institutions that support vulnerable children. And I've been talking to the board and to our CEO to say, can we strengthen the governance of these institutions so that they become sustainable institutions? And I know that our livelihoods sector is actually investing in making sure that they can produce some of their food, they can keep some chickens, and make sure that they can meet their food needs. We're also working in the health sector, and we're working with central hospitals to make sure that they've got the capacity. It's knowing what is permanent and needs to be strengthened rather than building parallel structures that work alongside government or community structures.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That local, moving to like what are the problems, right? How can I strengthen the local community? What solutions are there for the local community? And I like how you mentioned food. I had a conversation with a lady in the humanitarian world as well, Wadzi Gare. She was at the time the FIXA president. And she said to me, we were talking about the same conversation about humanitarians losing jobs. And she said, we need to go back to the basics. And the basics are, people always need food. And what do the communities need? The communities need food. They need health. So it's really going back to those community basics, rather than you are saying, rather than trying to build yet there's some structures that are already there that just need strengthening.
Yes, we shouldn't be comfortable with truckloads of humanitarian food arriving in a community. No, we should be building resilient communities that can produce to meet their food needs. And if there's a year of drought, do they have other income earning activities that can help them generate the income they need to buy the food? So we're not having to bus in truckloads of food.
Yeah. Do you ever see yourself going back into humanitarian work?
No, not in the day-to-day humanitarian work, but maybe in an advisory capacity. But also this nexus between local and national is what has my interest. What is the local response? What capacities do they need? What do they need to know? And what support do they need to do what they need to do for themselves? That is where I would like to play.
Rudo, I am grateful. I'm going to end our conversation now with one question for you. If someone listening is sitting right now in a senior NGO role, like the role you were sitting in a few months ago, and they are looking at the exit, what is your single piece of counsel?
Just spend a lot of time in building other leaders, lower down at every level. Have people you are mentoring so that they are confident in what they bring and what needs to be brought. Don't be comfortable being the one chief with many, many Indians. No. Just make sure there's always a pipeline of leaders emerging all across the organization you lead. Leave a legacy of people who are built up and can do what you used to do better than how you used to do it. That is success for a leader.
That lands very well, resonates with me, Rudo, that success for a leader. And it reconnects me. And I thought back right now to a conversation that I had with Thabani Maposa. He said exactly the same thing. And I was thinking, you both worked together at World Vision.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Yes,
so it must have something to do with the organization as well. It must be a really incredible organization to work for and to work with, and to develop leaders such as yourself. And all the leaders that I actually know from the organization have this amazing humility and this amazing willingness and need to impact communities and lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a great organization to be part of. And we were privileged to also have people who believed in us, because I really was mentored. I was shown a lot of grace along the path of growth.
Yeah. I think that is the one organization whose mission I tended to remember. My hope, now I've forgotten. My hope for every child, my prayer for every child is life in its fullness. I love that sentence.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? I represented the Africa continent in the committee that helped develop or land that mission statement.
Yeah, but right, to end our conversation, just two things that you can share with us. One book that you would recommend for a humanitarian who is currently, working as a leader, a senior leader in the humanitarian space. One book you'd recommend for them, and another book. I know you say these are things you wish you would read more, but if you can think of like a book that you would want to read yourself now that you are going into entrepreneurship.
Oh, well, I think for the humanitarian, I would like to read And Still We Rise, a book edited by Mrs. Tsitsi Masiyiwa and her daughter, Tanya Masiyiwa. But the book that I can recommend is primarily for faith-based humanitarian workers. And it's a book which I actually carried, and it's called True Spirituality. And it's a book that says, go beyond an academic faith, go beyond a cosmetic faith. Actually make sure that your spirituality is lived out in how you live. It is the book that is based on Romans chapter 12. Offer yourselves as a living sacrifice, because actually nothing less will do. Christ did it for us. We may never have to die for anyone, but let's bring all of who He has made us to be back to Him, and He will deploy it in a way that best pleases Him and honors His name. So True Spirituality is an amazing book.
I love it. If you were to have a song, what song would you say represents your transition from humanitarian to entrepreneur?
Oh, I don't know if I think of things as in terms of songs.
Anything. Okay, if not a song.
Maybe a song like I Surrender. Because I think I actually am at a point where I am fully available to be deployed as God would have me. And of course, it has taken a lot to get me here. But I'm grateful that I really do surrender, because I feel safe in God's hands.
Yeah. If you had a billboard, you were able to put a billboard up in along the busiest street in Harare, what sign would you put on that billboard?
I would put a sign which would say, "Do not be deceived. What a man sows, he will reap." And it comes from Galatians 6 verse 7. It's something that has remained with me throughout my life, that don't lie to yourself. Don't believe you can do one thing and not reap its consequences, good or bad. So sowing and reaping has marked my life. Sow into the lives of people, and you will surely reap a return of lives that are lived in a full way. Fullness of life is a gift, but we can participate in making that a reality for so many people.
I think I will end our conversation with that and ask for commitment that you are going to come back after 1 year.
Yes.
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
And speak about the journey again. That's the one piece I want to leave with you, listeners. If you are mid-pivot, name the thing you are building while you are still inside. Write it down. Open the shop in your mind while you still have that job. And, the person who builds Fahari is the person who was already building it on Tuesday nights after the job.
Yeah.
Sis Rudo, thank you. It has been my honor. Thank you for the honesty, for the story, and for showing what it looks like to carry a 25-year career into a calling. Where can our listeners find you, find Fahari, and support what you're building?
Well, the shop itself is at Portal Village in Highlands in Harare, Zimbabwe. Yes.
And if they want to connect with you, do you connect LinkedIn? Is that the best place?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. Surprise, surprise.
Thank you once again to our listeners. Follow Fahari. If you're a woman building something, look into the Fahari Women's Fund and ask Rudo, how did you build that? She's very happy to mentor, as you have heard. And if this episode resonated with you, 3 things I ask of you. Subscribe to HUMHR Career Insights wherever you are listening. If you are watching on YouTube, right down here. Like it, rate it, comment. Those are the simple actions that help this community grow. Share it with one person who is thinking about their own pivot. And if you want to go deeper, join us on Patreon. Everything you need is in the show notes. I'm Batje Chibafa. I was having a conversation with Rudo Kayombo, and this has been HUMHR Career Insights. Until next time, stay inspired.